Since 2020, theaters have had a hard time recovering from the government mandated shutdowns. First and foremost, this article from Variety from March of 2021 says that AMC theaters alone lost $4.6 billion in revenue as a result of governments forcing them to shut down. And this is just for one theater chain. Other theater chains are actually faring much worse than AMC are in this one. And then last year, when things were just starting to pick up again, Hollywood went on strike for pretty much most of the summer and fall. And as a result, there's a cascading effect where a lot of major releases got delayed until 2025. So a lot of movies aren't going to be coming out this year compared to previous years. And that's going to result in movie theaters losing upwards of $1 billion in revenue. And then we just got an earnings call from AMC where it says their revenue is down nearly $250 million. So AMC and other theater chains are kind of figuring out what they can actually do to generate revenue because they're not getting the aid from Hollywood because, like I said, a lot of movies are being delayed and a lot of the movies that have been coming out of there recently haven't been up to the quality that people are actually coming out to support. So theaters are trying to take their own position and figure something out in order to actually generate revenue and keep themselves afloat. And it looks like they might have actually found something that seems to work because we got the news with the Dune popcorn buckets, kind of went viral and became really popular, but it looks like having souvenir popcorn buckets for movie releases is another revenue stream that theaters might be able to get behind for this one. Over the past year, theater chains like AMC have turned to special collectibles, which they can sell for higher profit margins to maximize sluggish theatrical revenue from ticket sales as the domestic box office struggles overall. And the need for theater chains to do this just comes down to the simple fact that not as many people are watching movies in theaters now as they did in the past. So theater chains need to figure out how to make more money from the individuals who are going there. And the only other avenue that they can think of is the concessions because that's the only other thing that they sell up to this point. Now they can either raise prices on the concessions or they can offer something else that the people might want. And that's where the souvenir popcorn buckets come into play or even just other souvenir merch, just something that you would have to actually go out to the theater to get. So it seems like a good idea, at least in my opinion, where people can actually get something else of value. It's not just charging more for what are already high price concessions, but so far it looks like these souvenir things from the movies are actually paying off for the theaters. Because in 2023, AMC theaters reported they made $1.67 billion in food and beverage revenue, as well as $452 million in other theater revenue. So outside of the box office, they made around $2 billion. And of that $2 billion, $54 million came from movie themed merchandise such as collectible popcorn buckets. So that's obviously a small drop in this, but still it's sizable enough where the theater chains are actually looking at it and thinking like, we can actually use this. And that's not a insignificant amount of money. So this seems like a real feasible way for them to generate an additional income, something that is much needed for them. Moviegoers are showing a greater willingness to spend more at theaters, so why not see how far they're willing to spend, box office editor Daniel Loria told The Wrap. With a Barbie tin that costs $35 that costs $25 to $30 per unit to buy, the profit margins are much higher than the $1 or $2 that comes with just a normal bucket of popcorn. And it's kind of interesting how they can get away with doing this sort of thing because going out to the movies is not like how it used to be where people would just go to the movies habitually on Friday or Saturday night, because now they've gotten so expensive to actually bring the family out for the night that it's almost treated like a special event. But because it's treated like a special event, people are more willing to actually spend money to do that because you have to spend a lot of money already. So since it's one of those things that you're not going to do all the time, people are more willing to actually buy special souvenir while they're at it. Like kind of when you go on vacation, for instance, popcorn buckets aren't anything new. My wife picked this up when we were at Tokyo Disney Sea around 5 years ago, this popcorn bucket. And it's like, if you just want popcorn, no reason to spend money on this, but it was a special occasion. We're not there all the time. So it's kind of a cool souvenir to get while we are at it. And I think people are starting to see that when it comes to movies, because you're not going out to the movies all the time. So when you are there and for a special movie, maybe you want to get like an extra souvenir. And I think these popcorn buckets are a good approach for something like that. Some of the movies that have had popcorn buckets for them include Wonka. There's doing one for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I think this is pretty smart. 25,000 limited edition ones for Barbie that's shaped like her car in that. And having a limited amount of numbers for them is a smart move, because then there's going to be people buying them up, hoping that they can sell them for a bigger price on eBay or something like that. So that's a smart move for theaters, assuming the movie is big enough and popular enough where people will buy them up. But that's where you can have the kind of pitfalls of something like this, because I can see if the popcorn buckets and other souvenirs like that being successful, then theaters are going to try to do it for more movies, and they're going to be more risky with how they're gambling on that. And it really is a gamble because they have to buy these in advance. And if people just don't buy them, then yeah, they just blew a bunch of money on souvenir popcorn buckets that no one wants. While national chains like AMC and Cinemark have the cash reserve to invest heavily into collectibles, the cost of buying into them can be much higher for smaller companies. Like in this article, it just points out how in some movies, people just aren't willing to spend the extra money for the souvenir popcorn buckets. Like it said, for sometimes they'll spend $12 for the popcorn buckets per unit. That means they have to sell them at minimum $18 in order to turn a profit. And people just don't care enough about it to do that. However, for some movies, like it said, for the Trolls movie, they spent $6 each for the popcorn bucket, and they sold pretty well at $10 each. And that's because the Trolls movie was kind of treated like a family outing, almost like an event for the family. So parents were willing to spend a little bit extra on souvenirs for their kids or something like that. So you really have to figure which movie and really think about which movie you're going to do this for, because it does point out for the Taylor Swift Eras Tour, people just didn't buy the souvenir popcorn buckets that they created for that. And that sounded like a good idea because that was kind of broadcast as an event movie, but apparently it didn't work out. As a result of that, the theaters had to eat the loss on it and basically just give away the popcorn buckets because you just can't have an inventory like that on hand. So theaters, I think, are going to be a little bit more cautious on what they try to use this for in the future. And maybe because of that reason, they're not going to just try to do it for every movie that comes out. But it does help for studios as well, because the Dune popcorn bucket really did play a factor in promoting the movie. And I think there's people who went out to go see it in theaters because specifically they wanted to buy that popcorn bucket because it became kind of a viral meme as a result of the design of it. So maybe that's going to help out with studios in the future. So maybe they'll kind of help research and supplement the cost for the theaters moving forward. But I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case, but I think that could actually be mutual beneficial for the studios as well as for the theater chains too. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Did you actually buy the Dune popcorn bucket when you saw the movie? Personally, I would have bought in the popcorn bucket, but I had a choice because those are being sold at AMC theaters. And the only IMAX screen in my area was a Regal Cinema. So I had to choose either watch it in IMAX or get the popcorn bucket. So I chose to watch it in IMAX. But if you saw it in an AMC theater, did you actually get the popcorn bucket too? But I'm curious what people have to say about this. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest in entertainment news. And be sure to click that like button and share the video because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.